Now we're joined by Palatine Senior Football Manager Pado Flynn. Pado, you're very welcome. Great to be chatting to you. Pal in the county final. Not something a lot of people would have thought at the start of the year. Pado Flynn probably thought differently, no doubt.
Yeah, no, look, I think Kev, as I would have said, for the last couple of weeks, they're a great bunch of lads in Pal. They're really interested in their football. Killian Roach had the guys in reasonable order for the month of January and February when I actually took on the job. And like in football, if you have a fit, interested team, it's kind of half the battle. So it is. So like as the year went on, like we knew the league at the start of the year was going to be very tough for us. Jack Brennan was out injured at that stage. Craig Carney was coming back from a bad groin injury from the year before, and and in fairness to the club, to all involved in Palatine, they all knew the league was not going to be a great scenario in the sense of it was all about getting everyone fit and right for the championship. But as the league went on, an awful lot of young players then started putting their hands up for selection. And after the first game against Air Oak, like we went out against Rathvilly and we had a mighty game out in Rathvilly where kind of lads that day left and kind of went, well, right, fair enough. Brendan Murphy wasn't playing that day for Rathvilly and one or two others, but you were going through it, and maybe 10 or 11 of last year's county final winning team was playing, and suddenly you could just see the younger players were beginning to believe in themselves because what they were doing on the field was good enough to be involved. And as the year went on, they kept improving it. And you get back then Horse from the senior hurlers, you get back Connor Crowley from the senior footballers via Chicago, and you get back you have other players there really pushing on and training, like you have Tom Sheen has put back a year's holidays to Canada. Jamie Kenny similar. The lads themselves, as the year went on, believed in themselves. And it's, at no stage during the year was I kind of looking out from the dressing room, kind of going, just what are we going to do here? Like, there was always numbers of training, there was always people interested. And probably the only hard time we had was probably around the leaving cert, because a lot of lads go on holidays and a lot of lads doing the leaving cert involved in the group and college exams and that. So, yeah, look, and the league went well, as in, great to get to the league semi-final. Great to get a day out and netwatch Cullen Park and play Rathvilly again. And again, we had some good passages of play. But, as a Kilkenny man, Kevin, and as Colin Bonner always told us with WIT, leagues are for finding the extra one or two players. If you win it, brilliant. If you don't, you don't. It's championship is the be-all and end-all. And that's, and in fairness to the club weren't saying to me win leagues or anything like that. It was to get performances in the championship. So in fairness, when the players know that, the supporters know that, and everyone in the club knows that, it's a week is a long time in politics, a month is a long time in club football. Give a man 9 months, you can't really have excuses when you come to championship not to be performing.
Absolutely. And I suppose the thing in Carlow is, with relegation not being a problem, or promotion if you're in the lower tiers, it does just give you the opportunity to use it as, sure, like, to be honest with you, I don't like to demean the competition, but it's no different to the Kelly Cup up in Laois. Like, you can't, it's nice to win it, but you can't get relegated out of it. If you win 1B or Division 2, wherever it is, you don't go up. So, like, it is just literally an exercise of trying to find one or two, really.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. Like, it is. Like, I think in Carlow people underestimate it because, like, it is fierce and valuable, like, in the sense of that you're giving players experience. Like if you go out and you just play your championship 15 and forget about everything else, I'd agree with what you're saying, Kevin. But
Yeah.
the nature of the league, that the county players aren't allowed to play both at under 20 level and at senior level, it means then that you're naturally going to be progressing players as the year goes on, and it gives people an opportunity. It also puts a structure to the year, that you have your league the first few months of the year, and then you have a break for championship, and it's, in effect, it's giving you a second chance at the preseason. So I know why the feeling is there about it, that it's a meaningless competition, but Rathvilly used it, for 2 years there to win a senior county final. They built their squad back on the back of it. Pat Ryan himself would tell you that's where they picked players out of it. We used it this year, like Josh Egan, Brian McMahon, Sean Woods, Chris Parrell, Keane Kelly, Alexi Sunderland. They all made their senior debuts for the club in the competition this year and last year. So, like, it is vital. So it is, like, and the reality is, if you didn't have that competition, Kevin, to try and get challenge matches around the country in football is next to impossible. So it is. So it it's not the ideal solution, but it's probably the best of what you can actually do when you don't have county player involvement. And at the end of the day, if I asked you to name out the last 10 league winners in Carlow, you'd struggle to tell me. So, whereas we all know who won the last few county football finals and who was in the final, and we'd probably make a fair stab at who was in the county semi-finals as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the reality of it. Before last weekend's game, I suppose, the O'Loughlin one in particular, there wasn't a whole lot of stake there. Was that a difficult enough one to approach? Because if you go down the route of over experimenting, maybe, then you lose a bit of momentum. But you're kind of, both teams were a little bit on a hiding to nothing with that one, but it ended up being a decent game of football at the same time.
I understand what you're saying. The reality is, those 2 weeks were tough weeks for anyone in management within Gaelic football or hurling. First thing is, being a young side, we had a number of players starting off their first week in college, a number of players starting leaving cert year in school, a number of players starting, work placement within their college courses. So in effect, going from being, I won't say professional Gaelic footballers for the month of August and July, but they're able to, work around their lives, that they're able to get to the gym in the morning. Mammy was making dinner at home. They weren't relying on, takeaways, etc. So it is. And then the natural energy drain of driving 2 hours from Limerick, Galway, Cork, Dublin. There's a number of players on the squad travel, and Electric Picnic as well. A few lads did go to Electric Picnic, and it's called life. They're not professional footballers, and in relation to the Auckland game, we had a number of injuries going into that match. But I don't believe in excuses, Kevin, as in lads got their chance for that match, and lads, any day you put on a championship jersey, it doesn't matter the status of the game. You're going out to represent your club, your colleagues, yourself, your family. There is no easy game. And O'Loughlin that day, and I flagged it with the players beforehand, O'Loughlin are a serious football side. They could have bet Rathvilly in that first game. They could have bet Rangers in that second game. And you look at how well those teams performed thereafter in the championship. Both made the county semi-finals. And O'Loughlin put us to the pin of their collar. And, Aaron Ammon, Mikey Bambrick and them, they're serious footballers. So they are young Patrick Coughlin as well. So, they came at us in waves. And, in fairness to our players, they figured it out in the second half. And it happens in football, ebbs and flows. So it does. Even the great football team of Dublin and Kerry have days where, sides play better than them, and you have to eke out the hard yards. And for me, that was the brilliant thing on for that game, was the lads eked out the hard yards, the hard scores, and could have very easily said, nah, not going to try. But that's the character that's within the team, and that's the character within the setup. And every day we go out, Kev, it doesn't matter who's been named to start or play, we're putting out our best 15 to play the match. And Brian Cody, Jim Gavin, all these great managers, they all say excuses are for losers. And I firmly believe that, as in, if you put yourself in a position where you're using an excuse, you shouldn't be in charge of a football team. Your job is to get the team in such a condition and best possible shape that a reason doesn't come into it as, why you lost the game. If you lose a game like that, well, you're not the best team on the day.
Was it a Braun hairdryer or a Dyson hairdryer that came out at halftime the other day? Because something was said at halftime. The boys came out and got 3 points in the first minute or two.
Look, I think we had some fruit pastilles at halftime. Maybe they were a bit low on sugar, so they were. I'm just look, in fairness to the guys, they weren't happy with their level of performance. But you have to give huge credit to Rathvilly. Rathvilly had every angle of us covered, they had every move covered. And in that scenario, again, it's about figuring out what's best for the team. And, it sometimes takes to halftime to get in and just figure out what's going on out in the field of play. And, in fairness, a half-back might have a view in the game, but doesn't realise what's actually happening up in the corner that's clogging up a bit of space. So, hair dryers. The day of a hair dryer, Kevin, just we're nice and calm at halftime. Have a look at what happens, and then come out and assess for the second half. But again, you're 30 minutes from a county final, and the county final is the big day in Carlow to get to. It's a huge occasion, so it is like I've often gone to the Carlow Senior Football finals because they don't really clash with the hurling finals in Kilkenny. They seem to always just work out nicely, as in the two showpieces. And like they're momentous occasions and days to get to. And for this team, it was a huge thing for them to get to the final. They'd suffered the heartbreak 2 years ago against Rathvilly in I think it was the delayed 2020 semi-final. So yeah, like it's huge. So yeah, look, the players themselves drive it on, Kevin. So yeah, it is. But like half time, a point down to the county champions, I think a lot of people at the start of the year would take that scenario, and so like, yeah.
Yeah. I know we're getting a bit tight on time, but just a couple of things before we finish up. I think the most notable thing that changed the other day was the injection of pace, probably in the second half, and going back to simple things like shooting on the loop, just taking the right option essentially. Like, and I'll tie this in with the last point then. When it comes to Tinryland and, the shape or whatever, they commit a lot of men forward, as we know, yeah? So Pal really do have the pace to trouble them on the counter attack. So I'm guessing that is maybe it's not the single biggest factor in the game, but it's definitely something that you might go after anyway, I'd say.
Look, I'll be honest with you, Kevin. Like it's like people make an issue out of tactics and whatever else in football. Anyone who's watched PAL this year knows we have a very simple game plan. It's we go man on man, best, and we just bank on the fact that our guys will go out and give their best shot, if you know what I mean, on the day. Yeah, we have a lot of attacking pace. It's brilliant to see. It's the way I think football should be played, on the front foot, and make it exciting. But at the end of the day, football finals are there to be won. I was with Selbridge last year, Kev. We lost the hurling final to Naas by a score. They went on and walked the All-Ireland final. So finals are there to be won. I don't think anyone in Palatine or Tinryland will care what the score is once there's somebody in their colours going up the stand to get the cup off Jim Bulger at 5:20 on Sunday. But anyone who knows me, even from a hurling point of view, Kevin, you saw me with the county setup for a number of years. We try and outscore the opposition, and and that's the way we set up, and it's the way Pal's traditions also set up, is that they're an attacking team and go after the game, if you know what I mean. So like, the one thing I hope for on Sunday is when we come off the field, we'll have no regrets, because it's a long winter if you have regrets. If you go out and give it your best shot, like using the hurling parlance, Kilkenny last July, yes, they got bet in the All-Ireland final, but I don't think any player really had any regrets afterwards. They gave it their best shot. On Sunday, that's what we hope to do. There'll be a massive PAL crowd there. I thought the roof was going to come off the hinges in Netwatch when Shane O'Neill got that point, the third point. I was like, God, you knew at that stage the difference between the group stages in senior championship in Carlow and the knockout stages. And even the previous week, the Rathvilly Aero game, there was some crowd there, and Bagnallstown Rangers game as well. So yeah, look, it's tactics I don't get too worked up about, Kevin, because you can have a tactic for everything, but at the end of the day, it's not American football. There's not a break every 20 seconds. There's not a microphone into the players' ears. It's a game that takes on a life of its own, and I'm sure the players will give it absolutely everything on Sunday.
Good stuff. Pado, the very best luck to yourself and everyone in Palatine. Thanks for chatting to us here. All right.